All right. First off, thank everyone for being here. I want to thank all of our fans, all of our students. I thought the atmosphere inside the stadium, was electric, especially towards the end. You could really feel it. What a football game on Saturday. Two really good teams. After watching the film, I'm still really proud of our team. I felt like they really left it out there. And, the Built in the Dark is really about growth. And I think from week 1 to week 2, week 2 to week 3, then obviously the bye week, you saw a lot of those things get to application. And I think that's our players really taking it to task, really wanting to go out there and get better. I thought we had an excellent week of practice and preparation, and you saw it out there. I mean, they left it out there. They emptied the tank. I think the biggest thing we talked about this morning when we went back and watched the film is like no one's going to give you the breakthrough. No one's going to give it to you. Okay, you got to go out there and you got to find a way to finish and take it. And the fight is in this team. The attention to detail was there this morning. They had one of the best lifts I've seen them do today, and I think that's the sign of maturity and what they really want to be about. So I think that's really, really important. Just like any game day, we celebrated the good. We showed a bunch of really good things. There's a lot of hard work that goes into game day and that preparation. I thought it was really good. We had some big-time catches on Saturday. Carlos had a big one. Rax late in the game was phenomenal. Micah Mays, so really good to see. Chris Barnes had one down the sideline. Obviously, DeMond had some big-time runs. I thought he trusted his track probably better than he has throughout the first couple games. The one in overtime, really, we didn't block anybody. He just hits it out the back door, and I think those are the things he does. Defense with a big-time takeaway, only giving up 3 explosive plays, I think was big to our success. And then obviously there's lots of learns. Red zone offense, I think is a point of contention that we got to continue to press on. We worked it this morning. We identified some things that we need to go out there and get better at, which I think is important. We didn't, when the game kind of was really in the balance there in the third and fourth quarters, affect the passer enough. I thought the King kid got back into a little bit of a rhythm, and then we didn't quite get a game-changing play on that special teams that we spent a lot of time over the bye week on. So obviously a credit to Georgia Tech, a really good football team. I think it still says we're a really good football team, and I like the look in the eye of the guys when they came back today. And then moving on to Virginia Tech, I know we'll get a blend of different questions, but it's a different football team. It just is what it is. They were really tested hard, early with a really tough non-conference schedule. Played some really good opponents. 2-0 since the coaching change, and Coach Montgomery, I actually played against him in 2019 when he was at Tulsa. I was at Wyoming, and I know the exact situation that he's going through. I've been there, interim head coach, and situations like this can either bond or break your team. Virginia Tech right now has been galvanized. Some guys chose to not continue playing. What that does, I think, sometimes to a football team is the men that are left in the foxhole, they're really bought into each other. And I think that's what you saw, in a pretty dominant performance and really disruptive performance against an NC State football team. So, once again, every week you have to bring it. This will be our first road game, going into a hostile environment. I believe it's their homecoming. Taking a bunch of new guys on the road together, personally, from a coaching standpoint, I think there's nothing better. Taking 75 travelers and your coaches into a hostile environment and going and trying to get the win. So that'll be the focus of our preparation, and it starts right now. So, with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Jake, just so we can get past the non-offsides call, because I know you don't hang out on social media like we have to, but if you listen to the fan base, that's the only reason you lost.
Yeah.
That non-call. Beyond getting the apology from the ACC, it's not even an apology, the acknowledgement from the ACC, what else happens in your world to talk to the ACC about how bad that was?
Focus is important, like where your mind goes on it. Disappointed for our team because of that. There's one uncontrollable thing that lost us the game, and there's a ton of controllable things that lost us the game. So we got to focus on that. One, I think refs have a really hard job. I think they're human. I think it's a complicated game, and I do think they make mistakes. Okay. B, was he clearly offsides? Yes. Did they acknowledge he was offsides? Yes. Does that change the outcome of the game? No. Okay. They also acknowledged that it was also pass interference. Okay. So 2 missed flags on a big outcome that win the game, and we take knees, and it matters. Okay. I'm a big problem solver. Okay. So I've actually brought this problem up before And the explanation is that pre-snap penalties are judgment calls. They're not. You're in the neutral zone or you're not. You false start or you didn't. You have 5 in the backfield or you don't. You hit a guy on the sideline pre-snap to deceive the team or you didn't, right? I would love every coach to have one red flag for a pre-snap penalty. You can throw it out there. Because like Johnny on the couch can see that, right? And we don't want to correct it, right? So I think there's a narrative to something to look at our game to take another step forward. When that's a 5-second review, we missed the call, let's get it right. Let's have a passion to get it right. Because, it does have consequences. I think that's the big part of the whole big picture that is part of the truth and the facts of the one play. If this happened to somebody in a playoff chase, the outcry, right? And it happened to us, and it's unfortunate for our team. But I think there are solutions to this problem that our game of football and coaches in general and the ACC and Steve Shaw, the head of officials, really needs to look into, because that's not a judgment call. In the course of action, holding, PI, roughing the passer, like those things are hard and they are judgment, and some things are going to go your way or not. This was a very factual thing. So whether they take that solution or not, whether you can get that, you know what I mean? I just think it's really important to make the correct changes to our game with something so obvious to get that corrected and right.
I can follow up on that. You said Saturday that quarterbacks are generally taught, if you have the instinct that you have a free play, which of course he can't see whether the flag's been thrown or not, but you go big down the field like he did.
Yeah.
At some point, doesn't time and space come into it?
Well, we talked a lot about that. We talked a lot about that, Tony. We talked about that a lot, Tony, as a coaching staff, and there's a correction that we'll make to that situation, and I'll admit that. But Robbie did what he was trained to do, so I will take that, and we've identified things as coaches, to your point, that we will do better next time.
Jake, it's second game in a row where you guys you had the lead in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
The game slips away. I know when we talked about it on the bye week, we were talking more about being a full 4-quarter football team. Didn't quite happen again against Tech. How much of that is just the maturation process of the football team being in those situations and understanding how to come on the other side of it?
That's the breakthrough I was talking about. You got to go earn it. You got to go show yourself you can do it. You got to continue to play present. And I think that's coaches, staying aggressive and being on the attack and playing to win. I think as a high performer and players, it's being in the moment and what's required of me now. We're dealing with adversity also in that stretch. Obviously, Robbie going down after a great drive coming out of the half. Deshaun came in there, kind of sputtered a little bit. He came back in. We knew Georgia Tech was going to come out and give us their best. They're a championship football team that's very seasoned. I thought the best part about this one, the sideline demeanor was better. The communication points on the sideline and their energy, and I thought their focus, and we talked about not pressing a bunch last week, I thought that was a lot better. I thought we re-steered the ship back to where we wanted it to be. Obviously, the big takeaway helped. We didn't quite finish where we wanted to go, but I thought we really competed, and from my standpoint, there was growth, but it's not the result that we all want and work for, right? So it's back to it, and the more you can put your team in those situations, I believe the breakthrough's coming, and I think that's a big part of it.
How much do you know about, you said, first road game, bringing, basically new team into a hostile environment. You ever seen the videos of what happens at Virginia Tech and the entrances and stuff?
Yeah.
How familiar are you with what they're all about?
Yeah, I've seen it just like many people on like YouTube and stuff. It'll be great to experience it live, and I think that's the best part about me being here and experiencing kind of the ACC for the first time. There's a lot of great traditions in college football I'm excited to be a part of, and that's got to energize us as well, right? In some capacity, it's kind of like your primer to go out there to kick off, and then when that ball is kicked off, there's going to be an environment that we got to handle. It's going to be homecoming, it's going to be loud. It's going to be first time with crowd noise, third down, red zone, so we'll work that so our guys are prepared. Offense will be in the indoor this week, working noise. But I'm excited to see it, and I'm sure our guys are ultimate competitors, and it'll energize them as well.
Follow up to John's question about that second half. Other teams are making adjustments at halftime, and at least the last few
Mm-hmm.
their adjustments are overcoming whatever adjustments you are. How, as a staff, how do you change that their adjustments are being your adjustments?
I think the notion a little bit, because I do understand your point, is that the halftime adjustment thing is a little bit overrated. Because you got the iPads, you better be adjusting for 60 minutes. What we talked about a little bit more as a staff is, okay, you come in on defense and like, okay, game plan. How's your plan working? Well, it's working pretty good. What's our next punch? What's our knockout punch, more importantly, right? So, especially when we came down and scored, made it 3 possessions with a 17-point lead, at some point staying on a stance of going out there and how can we figure out a way to knock them out. That might be giving up an explosive play and exposing yourself a little bit, but it's also has the possibility of creating something great to get off the field to end the game. There's a couple, penalties still continue to creep into getting us behind some chains in the middle of the third quarters and the fourth quarter. So we got to be in better position from those things. So there's a mentality piece to it. There's an adjustment piece to it. And those are the things that we look at as coaches. Are we staying aggressive in those moments? And I thought our first quarter calling of offense, I think, did that with a little bit getting some shots down the field.
Jake, you mentioned knowing what Virginia Tech staff's going through and the roster's going through because you've been through it.
Yeah.
Took over middle of the season. What do you remember when you were going through that, early in that window, those first couple games where you're the head coach now running things? For you, what was that experience kind of like?
I mean, a little bit different situation, but the interim thing was real. It was in the middle of the season. Like I said, my situation was unique, and everyone was kind of torn on that situation. Where I think sometimes when this happens, if you're ultimate competitor, sometimes players feel a little responsible. Like, man, we gotta go get this. So I think there's a group of people on their side that they've shown a different kind of effort, a different kind of focus, and they've attacked the last couple weeks, right? So you can see, they're playing free. I think the quarterback, once again in this league, you're going to play a really good dynamic quarterback that can do a bunch of different things every week. I think he's shown that really throughout the course of the season. So it's a team that's going to be hungry. They're passionate about what they're doing, and they're playing that way right now. So we got our hands full.
Since I haven't inundated you like I used to with your predecessor with big picture questions every week, I'm going to hit you with one now.
There you go.
Another coach fired yesterday. Are we firing coaches way earlier than what we used to? Has the patience from boosters and from fan bases gone way out the window?
Yeah, that one's in left field there. I think from a coach talking about firing coaches, I mean, it just sometimes it's really cyclical. Last year was the slowest cycle in the history of college football because of the uncertainty of the rev share. So what does that lead to? It leads to a lot of uneasy people. And I think that's what you're seeing a little bit this year. You need time to build teams. I don't think that has ever changed. I think that narrative is sometimes false, that the portal's some magic oasis that you can just go into and fix teams. And if money just won games, I mean, let's not even play them. Right? Just give the Yankees the World Series and just keep moving forward. My Brewers are doing pretty damn good. Okay, so that's why we still play the games. But yeah, I think it makes everyone uneasy when you get a lot of people with more hands in the pot than there used to be. I mean, you think you're going to get some of that, but anyone focused on that is just outside noise, and you got to just stay in the inside more than ever. I talk to players a lot about controlling their environment. It's the key to elite performance in today's world. Same thing with coaches. Okay, same thing with coaches. I mean, if you're out there listening to the noise out there in the armchair quarterbacks, you're going to lose your mojo. You can't have that, and you got to trust in your process. And every one of us coaches have gotten to this point because we're damn good coaches. That doesn't mean, something has gone wrong, right? Something has gone wrong in the process throughout whatever happened. And I've seen a lot of coaches resurrect themselves later in the deal doing that. So support those guys. I got my first full-time coaching job. the head coach gets let go and we're 7-5, and I'm looking for a job. Right? It's a tough industry that we all sacrifice for. We understand the scrutiny of it, and I think this comes with it a little bit.
Coach, you have update on Damon?
No updates on injuries. I'll meet with Allison here shortly. We'll kind of update everybody on Wednesday. But a very gutsy performance on Saturday. You know, it really was. Shows his heart and passion, and I think, you know, from my standpoint, it was his best game that I've seen. You know, just kind of trusting. You know, Western Carolina, he had all the big runs, but just kind of getting some really gritty, tough 5-6 yard runs. So we'll have an update, and we're very hopeful that he'll be back out there.
I assume the answer is the same then for Robbie. I mean, yeah, he went back in and played and finished and whatever,
Yeah.
but clearly he's still wearing the brace.
Yeah. I think right now, you know, we're working through a lot of different things with him, and very hopeful, and we'll get some updates here by Wednesday.
Coach, you got a question about the second half offense. It seems like, especially the last two games, the offense was clicking in the first half, and then fourth quarter comes, you guys get to score a touchdown in the fourth this season. Is there a reason why the offense is struggling late in a game like that, especially with an opportunity to close it out? And is there something that you guys as a staff are looking into, maybe finding a way to free them up, you know, in that situation?
Yeah, I think it leads to some of our first points about the red zone offense. You know, anytime you're not scoring touchdowns, you're not finishing in the red zone. I mean, we've gotten there, you know, minus the NC State second half. I mean, we didn't move the ball at all. We barely got a first down until at the end of the game. So I thought we did a good job. Look at our offensive line from Kennesaw State to Georgia Tech. Night and day difference. A lot of credit to Coach Castor and what he's done with that group. A lot of credit to those guys. And just leaning on them a little bit more. I thought our inside run game was working. You know, I thought for a little bit, you know, we get Deshaun out there and we get a little more throw and it gets tipped, right? Then we get blown up in the backfield. Now we're 3rd and 14. You know, against NC State, it was, you know, holding penalty, or we get a first down, and so we've just controllable things that we haven't been able to do to get over the hump. And once again, to get the breakthrough, we need to break through on offense in the second half and in the fourth quarter, and when it matters the most, that we trust in our assignment to go out there and execute. I know that sounds fancy and it's not the magical answer that everybody wants, but sometimes that is just what it takes to stay the course and to prove that we can do it. But once again, playing present. You know, our guys got to be in the moment, every moment. What's required of you right now? What's demanded me in this moment? Not worried about the outcome, not worried about what happened in the last play or last series. Stay in the now. And I think we got to just get a group of people and coaches that understand that, believe in it, and execute towards that. All right, appreciate everybody. Thank you, guys. Have another great week. Enjoy the rain.